Actually, I'm going to tell you, I am nervous. Pranav and Prajit used to sit here and do it, and now I get to feel, how probably they felt. Maybe they did not feel this way. Maybe it's me. We'll see.
Srinivas, don't worry. Same here. I may not be able to answer like Bhumika.
I think we will all do fine. Done. All right, what time is it? Hold on 1 second. Are you going live? Okay. Uh, I've structured the questions just like what I sent yesterday, and please feel free to chime in. For whichever question, and because each one of you have different perspectives.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I think we'll go live in just a minute. It's okay. I believe we are live now. Not yet? Okay. Thank you all for joining us. Welcome to the fall season of Bindar Dandat. This is a series where Pranav and Prajit usually talk to high school and college students about their experience on different topics, which are important to high school and middle school students. As you can see, I am neither Pranav nor Prajit, as you would have come to expect during these sessions. I am Sreenivas Ramarao and I'm Pranav and Prajit's father. I will tell you why Pranav and Prajit are not hosting today in a minute. But thanks for joining on this Sunday for our third episode. Our focus during these sessions has been the college application and admissions process. The last two episodes focused on college essays and the colleges that you need to choose while you're looking for admissions. Now, today session is a little bit different focus. We'll talk about college financing. We will look at all aspects and options on how to fund college. Given this is a topic that is mainly focused for parents, I will be the host today. Okay, so let me jump in and introduce our panelists. We have three panelists today, and they come from different backgrounds. And when I introduce all of them, you will see why they are on this panel, because they have done some very good things that they will share with us today that will help all of us as we look at funding college. Our first panelist is Ajay Kumar. Ajay lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex with his wife Padmaja and daughters Bhumika and Deepika. Ajay works for General Motors Financial and has a master's degree in computer science. His hobbies include learning and teaching Veda Upanishads for kids, reading books, and, as he put it, watching tons of cricket. Now, Ajay is Bhumika's father, and as you may all remember, Bhumika has been on this show for quite a number of times, and she's currently at Columbia University. Well, Ajay, thank you very much for joining us today. Welcome.
Hello all.
Okay. Our second panelist is Srinath Beldona. Srinath is the father of Sachin, who has also been on this show, and Sachin is currently at UT Austin. I'm glad that Srinath could join us today as he brings in a dual perspective, as he's also an educator. He's the professor of management and also serves as the associate dean for academic affairs at the Satish and Yasmin Gupta College of Business at the University of Dallas, which is also my alma mater. So, welcome, Srinath.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Our third panelist is Ravi Kumar Ramarao. I have known Ravi for as long as I can remember. because he's my brother. And he lives in San Jose. And he will bring us a little bit different perspective from, from a different state, you know, staying in California. And Ravi is the father of another panelist who has been on this show for a number of times, and that is Malavika Ramarao. Malavika, you may recall, is studying at Cornell. And welcome, Ravi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you all.
All right. Thank you all for joining us today. And I will say this before we start because this is important. All of the information you will hear from the panelists and from me today is based solely on their experience. And it may be different when you start your own journey. So please take this as a starting point for everything that you're planning to do from your child's financial college planning perspective. This is a complex topic, and hopefully this will give you some ideas as to where to start. Okay, so having said that, we will have three parts for this show today. Part one, we'll be talking about planning for college funding, when to start, how to start, and what options do you need to look at. That's going to be part one. Then we'll go to part two, which is what colleges do you need to target or should you target when you're looking at this based on the amount of funding that you think you will get and what options you have, and the cost and the value for money. This is an important topic for all of us, and we're going to talk about that in part two. And in part three, we will discuss the important part of decision making when you have received admissions to a number of colleges, and then you're at a point where you need to make the final decision. And all of my panelists here have been in that situation, and they will tell us, how they made their decision, which is very important. So let's get started. And before we jump in, let me remind the viewers, this is a conversation, and please send us your questions either through Zoom or on Facebook Live, and we will certainly make sure that we address those questions with our panelists. So, part one, let's talk about planning. As a parent, when did you start thinking about college finances? What were your considerations and how did you start? And I'll let any one of you jump in and start.
Well, let me get started. I mean, as you could tell, being an educator, I have this tendency to talk a lot, I guess. So let me, hold me down a little. But I think as parents, all of us are very concerned about the rising cost of tuition. I mean, the tuition costs keep going up. So, I mean, it sounds very weird, might be sometimes when you hear this, but I took a call the day our kid was born, both the kids. I did make some initial deposit into a mutual fund specifically for their education fund. So to me, I mean, when you ask about the timing of it, it was the day, it may not be the exact day on the day they were born, but definitely within the first week or so, some X amount of dollars was kept aside with the hope that they will accrue over a period of time. I mean, those things will grow in a mutual fund. So in terms of timing, that's what I had done. But there are a couple of other things that you asked about that. To me, in terms of funding college to the kids, there are a lot of other options that he could do. Might be invest in 5 to 9s, right? I mean, there are things that he could do. To me, that again, as you rightly pointed out, things are very different. It all depends. As I taught you, Srinivas, back in our MBA days, you never give a straight answer because it all depends. It depends upon your conditions are very unique. To everyone is very unique. To me, 529s did not make any sense to me at that time, simply because being an educator, our kids can go to college not just at University of Dallas, but about 680 colleges that we network for free. For example, Baylor being one of them. Not that my kids decide to go there, but if they went there, that would be a free tuition. So my financial advisor advised me against investing in those things, simply because if they do decide to go there, then those monies will get stuck. So he said, being an educator, don't do that. So mine was very unique. But having said that, I did make some investments in real estate back in India in those days because markets were going up. But hey, being a global professor, I did not realize that the foreign exchange could come back and bite you. So those monies that I have back in India are no longer worth as much as they were supposed to. So, I mean, you look for diversified portfolio is what I did at that time.
Got it. Got it. Ajay?
Yeah, I can speak to that now. Thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate it. The whole family, you or kids are taking a great initiative here, and then getting these answered by the people who have got some experience in this. Thank you again. See, actually, as Professor Beldona said, I was not that organized as he. What happened was for me, when I started working in General Motor Financials, and even before that, the companies had this 529 opportunities. So I started putting some money there. I mean, every what happens is in your paycheck, every paycheck they take X amount of money, as Srinath said. So they would just uh, pile up, right? Every paycheck, X amount of money, and then they pile up. Uh, and then there are advantages and disadvantages in that, depending on which college you go. When we go to the next segment, I'm going to have like four different categories of colleges. Like, now I'm going to talk about that. And when you go to the second segment, that will be appropriate when you go to second segment. So I had the experience of all these four types of categories of colleges, wherein if I had invested in mutual fund, what would have happened to me? Was it an advantage or not? Not an advantage for the college purpose. I mean, having money is always a good thing, but what I'm saying is for the purpose of college, right? When you join the college, what are the implications, right? Whether having this money is going to give me this amount of financial aid versus not getting me the financial aid. That's where I'm coming from. So for now, I mean, for the first segment, I started doing it when I joined General Motor Financials, and even before that, when I was in New Hampshire, I used to work for Fidelity Investment, and so they all had this 529. But I did not invest. I did not put in a lot of money there, but I had some money there in 529. It's going to help, but there are some disadvantages, which I'm going to talk about that too also.
Okay. Ravi, you're on mute.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. I guess what Professor Beldona said, uh, we also thought about college and college cost when our kid was born. And at that time, I did consult uh, not a financial advisor, but some of our older friends who already had kids and asked them how they were going about saving for college. And our situation was we, both my wife and I, work. And they said, if you have two people in the tech industry, you pretty much do not qualify for any financial aid. So, and then someone said that if you put money in 529, that would be considered as part of available money before financial aid is determined. So both these put together, we decided we are going to set aside money, but not in a 529, but separately save for college. And we decided not to put in a 529. And I don't think that was the right thing at that time. Looking back, if there was one thing which I would have done differently, I think I would have saved in a 529. time, given the tax advantages it provides. But other than that, we did start saving for college from the very beginning. Uh, we did not create a separate account, but we were conscious about how much we were saving and what it was meant for. The way to look at it, at that time, there were some projections which were made. UC Berkeley in 2000 was about 14,000 per year uh, total cost. And today it is $40,000. And that's about 185%, I guess, how much it has increased. Now, let's just take 40,000 for an in-state tuition for 1 year. If you were to look at it that way, when your kid is in primary school, you should have saved 40,000. In middle school, you should have saved another 40,000. And in high school, another 40,000. And finally, when they're in college, those 4 years, that would be the remaining for the last year, 40,000. So it's quite substantial. And another way to look at it is if you start saving when your kid is in 10th, let's say 10 years old, that's per month, $1,200 savings that you need to put aside per kid. So I'm thankful that we were conscious about it. That was one thing. But also, I think my wife had this realization that if both kids were, like, if we had them within 2 years, that you would be paying at the same time for two kids. That was another thing. So I guess most of the folks who are listening now might they already had kids. I assume that. So that ship has sailed. Like, so don't worry about it. But it just so happened that our kids were separated by 4 years. So when one graduates, the other one would get in. But overall, I think being conscious about how much you need and setting it aside, and maybe in a separate account, if that's the best way for you, or keeping it separate and not using it for other purposes. Essentially, you need to save for college for it to be later on, so that you don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you all very much, because that is great information. Now, you talked about, 529s. Now, I believe there are also quite a few other vehicles that you can use in order to save, like education IRAs. I believe there are education savings accounts. Um, have you, any of you had experience with any of these, or did you look at some of these? And if you did, then what, pros and cons, would you be able to talk about some of these? Okay.
Unfortunately, I did not look at it. So
Okay. Okay.
Neither did I. I did not make any investments in any of those. So I'm sorry, I can't talk about that. But I think there are a couple of things that was said. I think I'm sure we can talk about this, but since we're having an organic conversation, I do want, for those of you, like Ravi said, you already have kids and all this stuff. But what would happen, I think, going forward? Uh, this is me, and we can talk about this later on. I'm a big proponent. I've gone around talking to various universities as well about this. I think education as we know it would be completely changed in about 15 years from today, if not sooner. And I think what we talk about financing, if you have younger kids, I think, who are like 4 years old now, I think that's something that we would talk about might be later on when we have some time.
Okay. Well, excellent. Now, I want to do one follow up to what Ravi said, because um, Ravi, you talked about is saving a significant amount in if we take the total cost, which is 40,000 in primary, 40,000 in middle, 40,000 in high school. Now, for somebody who might not have started, um, how would you suggest? I am sure there are other vehicles, but what would you suggest, all three of you, what would you suggest? Hey, here is something that you can start doing now.
Yeah, I can talk for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, let's say you have not started that. Let's say your kid is in 8th grade. Let's give that, 8th grade or of 7th grade. You have not seen this before. You don't want, you never you don't get a chance to look into this. Let's say, and now you want to start this, right? Um, one way or other, right? I mean, you want to either, as you said, IR education is one option, but there is a disadvantage which I'm going to talk about. The disadvantage I'm talk about that, which will bring down your financial aid opportunities. How it can quickly bring down your financial opportunity aid opportunities there. But this fight 29 again is a good tool wherein you can start talking to people, financial advisors, and start uh, saving there. These are the two good vehicles which you can drive when you are doing the financial planning, in my
Okay.
opinion.
Got it. Ravi, you had something?
Well, eh, here is how I look at it. I think education is the single most important thing that could propel you in your career, in whatever you're doing. I think if you put $1 into education, you'll get the return will be definitely more than $1. So I told my kids when they were I think in middle school, when we were having a conversation, and my son asked me, "Oh, what will my inheritance look like?" And I think it just came out. I told them that, you know what, your education will be your inheritance. I'm not planning on leaving anything for you. So go wherever you want, study whatever you want. I'll pay for it. I'll figure it out. I don't know, like, but I will pay for it. But other than that, don't expect anything. Was my answer. And I think that's the thing. Like, see, when we were in India and we were planning on coming to the United States to do our higher education, your parents mortgaged their house, whatnot, and then somehow sent you over here. And I would look at it like, no, it doesn't matter where you are, what stage, excuse me, you are right now, and how old your kid is. Put in as much as you can. Now, you might have a house, you might have savings in other forms which you can always draw upon. And what I told my kids is like, you go study whatever you want, and I'll figure out the financial aspect of it. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but then I would say, whatever stage you are, if you're starting now, it's never too late. Like, no, start as early as possible, but if not, start then and put in as much as you can. It's the same advice that financial planners give you when you have debt or something. So they say, oh, whenever you get a bonus check, whenever you get a raise, don't use it, put it towards this. Similarly, you could employ some of the same techniques to save. Yeah, earlier the better, but if you're starting late, no need to fret about it. Do the best you can. And finally, when the stage comes, like, no, it will show a path, like, you can figure it out.
So I
Got
know
it.
a couple of cases
Srinath.
from my own neighbors. Their kids went to Ivy League school. And to Ravi's point, what they did, I'm not saying that you need to do it, but I'm just sharing what other people have done to answer your question, is they went slow on their 401k, both husband and wife. They slowed down their contributions because, to Ravi's point, I mean, one of the biggest things that we all as immigrants do is ensure that you give education as the single best gift that you could ever give your kids. So that is one. And secondly, what they did is they refinanced their house. What they were doing, go back to again 30 years. So it was they elongated their mortgage, but because both the kids were going to Ivy League schools, they had to dip down and take it slow. So they extended because for them that was very important that the kids go to a very good school. So there are other options that you could do, I guess. I mean, in terms of if you're not already started, it's already too late and they're already in 10th grade and 11th grade and they're ready to go to college. I mean, there is not much you could do. Um, other than slowing down some of the things that you're already. I'm not suggesting that you should start doing it. The good thing to do is to plan ahead. But if not, there are options. It's not an idea to despair.
Yeah,
Right.
great. That is great information from all of you. Thank you all very much. To summarize, it is not too late. You can start anytime, and you can start thinking about how you can start putting aside some money to fund the college education. So, all right. So that was part one. So let's move on to part two now. In this section, we will talk about different college options, private colleges, public colleges, and how much it will cost. Also, we'll discuss how to select colleges that are in the range you're comfortable with, and how to have these conversations with your son or daughter. I believe this is going to be another important thing. Are you getting the value for what you're looking for? Just to look at some of the numbers, to give everybody a sense of how much cost weighs into decision making, almost 1/5 of students who were admitted to their top choice of college or university in 2016 that decided not to go there turned it down because of the cost of attendance. So,
Yes.
and this is according to the data from Royal and Company and enrollment management and alumni, fundraising arm of the Education Advisory Board. So, cost is a significant um, way, people decide where they want to go. So, Nagasri is going to put some links into the chat so that you can see, some of this data and also get some information. So, for our panelists, let me ask you, how did you have this conversation with your son or daughter? And what was your approach when you put together a list of colleges to target? Private, public, Ajay, you want to,
Yeah.
go first?
Yeah. Because this morning I was going through this because this is my experience, right? I mean, so I categorize them into four categories. I mean, there could be more than four, but for in my experience, I had these four categories, which I would like to share with you. The first one is public schools in state. For example, UT Austin. It's a great college. You have it's one of the highly ranked college in the country. The second one is public college outside the state. For example, UC Berkeley. As Ravi Kumar sir said, $40,000. Just imagine if Bhumika really wanted to go to that college, how much it would have cost? Around 60K, 55K. The third category is private schools. For example, Johns Hopkins College. And the fourth one is Ivy League colleges. So I had the opportunity to talk to all the financial aid offices, for of all these schools and find out the question is here, which one you choose here? What is the benefit of my 529 with one college versus the other college? Where I'm going to get the scholarship versus the grants versus the financial aid. See, when you say financial aid, right, the cost of the college, once you find out, you have to, see when they say financial aid, meaning is it a scholarship, grant, or they're talking about the loan? Which loan? Nobody wants to take loan, right? But sometimes you have to take it. But so when you categorize this grants, loan, and the scholarship which we get from these colleges, it's very important, right? I mean, it's very important. We go to the financial aid office, we can talk to them. They're going to answer these questions. When you talk to financial aid, each college, you can talk to them and find out what kind of things I can get from this college. They will definitely answer any questions you ask them regarding the finances because you're talking to financial aid offices. For example, the first category I take. I'm gonna take 5 minutes here. Is it okay, Srinivas? We have enough time
Yes,
here.
please do.
Okay. Because I want to make sure that I cover this actually. Srinath and Ravi Kumar, please pitch in and help me. I mean, if I make any, if I'm saying something which is, which may not make sense.
No worries, keep
Oh,
going.
thanks. So the first category I'm talking about now is the public school in-state. For example, if I live in a Texas area, let's talk about UT Austin, which is a great college. As I said, it's a highly ranked college in the nation. Um, and then for Ravi Kumar, it will be UC Berkeley or UC colleges, university colleges. They're all highly ranked colleges too. For people who live here, our fee structure will be little less compared to the outsiders, as we all know. For example, let's say if UT Austin is about 25,000 cost, that meaning tuition fees, staying there, food, insurance, books, everything, food, including food also, dorm fees, everything, travel, personal expenses. I'm just giving a rough figure, 25,000, let's say. Here, the opportunities in UT Austin Engineering College, right? Um, if you go to their website and see, there is a scholarship category. Getting the financial aid, if people are working here, we know if we are all software engineers or, if we are in that category, getting the aid is very less in this college, almost none. But in the engineering college, I don't know about the other college. This Cockrell, I have a document here. This Cockrell Engineering College, they have a scholarship program. This is merit scholarship. This scholarship they'll put into your fee structure. They can go up to $14,000 per year for up to 4 years. The total value of the scholarship is as much as $56,000 for 4 years. So what I'm trying to say here is the cost would be like, if I say 25 minus 14, that is 11,000. So it will bring per year $11,000. That's one category. But other than this, getting a financial aid from the in-state college for us is, I don't think it's not practical for us unless they have a different categories of people whom they can give. The second category, public. This is the first category I talked about. The second category is public school outside. That is, for example, UC Berkeley. I have something for that actually. UC Berkeley, since I am already an outsider, uh, I don't live in California. They have a structure, right? If you belong to the, if you are a part of California, you're paying taxes for California, then they'll consider you for this type of scholarship or any financial aid. But if you're an outsider, that's where they're getting money from. They may not. So again, getting this scholarship here, chances are less. And financial aid wise, um, for Bhumika, they said they're going to give $7,500 per year. That was the financial aid in the sense of grant. This is not like a loan. This is a grant. The college has some program, they give grant. So 55,000 minus 7,500, right? Rest of the per year be around $47,000, $48,000, and your travel extra. Always keep a buffer of 5 to 10,000 here and there, which we know that. So that's the cost there because it's outside. In these two categories, right? Let's say if I did not get any scholarship, any grants, anything, my 529, if they accept, the college accept this money, this will be very helpful. This is the benefit of it. Let's say you have saved those money, then they will directly write a check for those colleges. So whatever the, let's say if I had like $10,000, I'm safe then. $10,000 saved up. Next category, private schools. Example, Johns Hopkins College. Here, when you apply for the colleges, right? I mean, you don't say that I want to get a scholarship from your college. Can we get? You don't say that. What you do is you fill the form, everything, send it to them. I'm talking about a scholarship for now, and they have something called um, Hudson Scholarship, something like Hudson Scholarship. And let me read that correctly, actually. Sorry. It's called Hudson Trust Scholarship. It can go to, they can give, this is a scholarship, $37,500 tuition scholarship. So what they do is they pay this $37,500, and then after on top of it, if they see that this is the first part, right? This is the scholarship part. Then there is a grant thing, financial aid. Then they see this is where your 529S will be a disadvantage for you. Or having a money in bank account is a disadvantage for you. What they do is they look at your bank balance, everything through your profile, that is CSS profile, college board scholarship for schools, CSS profile. They go through this entire thing through the scholarship and then see that, okay, you can bring in this much of money, so and we can pay this much of financial aid for you. Scholarship is different. On top of it, the grant which you get, this is where this advantage, this 529 is going to be a disadvantage for you. The first two categories it was an advantage, but the third category it is disadvantage for you, unfortunately. Is it fair enough? No. But that's the system. The fourth category is Ivy League colleges. Ivy League colleges usually they don't have this scholarship, merit scholarship program. They may have, but especially in Columbia University, they did not have it. I'm sure that in MIT, I don't think they have anything like scholarship. But all these colleges, Ivy League colleges, have great grant. The grant which they give, it's amazing. The money which they have is amazing. The grants which they give, in the end, will be almost equal to whatever you pay in UT Austin. If you got a call, if you get a seat in UT Austin, and then you pay your every year, how much you pay, like 25,000. Sometimes it can come down also, but it all depends on the FAFSA which you fill in, and then the thesis profile which you make, and then it will show you a number, and which we can talk about that later. I mean, I don't want to take half an hour here and talk about all this. I want to listen from others also. But this is what you think, right? I mean, this 529 is going to be an advantage in some categories and disadvantage in some categories. You get a scholarship, which is always a good thing. On top of it, the grants which the Ivy League colleges will give you is based on your CSS profile and FAFSA again. The more money you can give, then the asset which you have, the chances of getting the financial aid is less. But 85% to 90% of kids, they get grants. It can be $1,000, $5,000, $50,000, $65,000. We don't know that. And you see, the University of Chicago, right? They are going to reach 100,000. It will be $100,000 per year. That means like $400,000 to finish your degree, bachelor's degrees. Just imagine. Probably in 2 or 3 years, I think they're going to hit that 100,000. That's what they're projecting actually. As of now, it's about 82,000 or something, but it can reach $100,000 per year per kid. Again, there is no one straightforward formula to write it and then get this is what I'm going to get. No, this will give an estimate. This is estimation that this is what I can plan for this ballpark I'm going to get. And again, if I have one kid going to, as Ravi Kumar said, if you have one kid versus two kid going to school, that makes a lot of difference there also. So these are the four categories I was able to just cover, but there is more to it. This is just if it's a high level discussion, and I'm just doing it here um, just an overview of this. But if we have time after this, we can talk more about this, like can go in detail, right? This college category. All I have this in school I covered. I would say the state I covered the private schools. I covered private school with Ivy League status. So I covered all these four, but there could be other categories too. This is what I want to just share. I mean, sorry if I've taken more time and try to
No,
explain this. But
that's very
you,
detailed information, Ajay. Thank you very much. I know, we're talking about private and public colleges, and you covered, hey, here are the advantages, here are in-state versus out-of-state. So I'm going to give, both Ravi and Srinath an opportunity to, chime in on how did you think about, in-state, out-of-state, private versus public colleges? Because I know, Sachin finally decided to go to UT, which is an awesome school, because I'm a Longhorn too. So, so, you know, so I'll let Srinath to talk about first, and then we'll go to Ravi.
So ours was a totally different approach. I mean, in our family, to me, what I say is it's always good to have a good pedigree, right? No, I mean, where you go makes a big difference at some point. But there is always a diminishing return. I mean, you just you don't want to go just because you can get there. Whether you can graduate from there is a different story. So, but for us, we made a totally different call. So the kids decided what kind of a school they want to go to. So we categorized into three, not necessarily into private, in-state, out-state, and all, like as I did. What we were looking is dream schools. Schools that you want to go. Like these are the stretch. You don't know, you might not get in. So those are like some schools. And then there were schools that you really want to target and you want to get into those. And then there were safety schools just because you never know what happens. So those are the kind of three categories that we looked into. And then really didn't matter to us. I mean, where the kids wanted to go, it was just a question of whether they can get admitted into those colleges. Cost to me at the time, I mean, I'll be very frank with you, is we said, okay, first get in there, let's figure out what we could do. That is the approach that we took. But surely, I mean, to your point of longhorns, I mean, thank God my son chose to be a longhorn. But he did go into. We took him to Cornell. Um, the call that he made at the time in terms of choice definitely did boil down to the cost. I mean, it was very expensive at the time for us, but it was a call I did not want to make because to me, I had figured out, okay, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars for both the kids to go to college. So if they can save me money out of that, that's great. It'll go into my retirement fund. If not, it's okay. But I did not want to be the one making the call. I wanted my son to make the call. So he figured out later on that they were both in the top 10. And to him, he felt that going here, being closer to house, was more important to him than going to Cornell at that time. I mean, again, theoretical computers is what he thought that they do back at Cornell as opposed to what UT did. So that was his choice that he chose. So cost was definitely there, but it was not a major factor, I would say, in his call when he decided to go to UT Austin. And it made very a good sense for us at the time because they were both in top 10. So
Got it.
that's how we did three categories: dream stretch schools and target schools, and then safety schools.
Got it. Thank you. Ravi?
Um, how did we decide? During the application process, um, um, I we did not try to think so much about cost as such. Um, my daughter, credit to her, did ask us, "Hey, listen, we are applying ED to Cornell. Now, if I get there, I have to go there. It's going to cost way more. I think it ended up costing us 80K versus UCLA, which was her choice of remaining in state, which would have been half of that. So she did say that. And my answer to her, if you were following the previous argument I was making, just apply and then go to the best school you can, was what I had told her. So I said, no, don't worry about it. Let's apply ED. So she very much wanted us not to apply ED from a cost reason, like she's very cost conscious. and she was trying to say like, oh, we will not apply for early decision anywhere. Early action, okay, because that gives you a choice whether you go take it up or not. But then my wife also was very insistent that no, we apply ED to Cornell, and that's what we did. Now, um, going back to what Ajay was saying, a couple of things. It was his experience is similar to my experience, and I want to reiterate a couple of items. One is um, when you apply to a public school in a different state, typically the institution, like if your kid has very good SAT scores and grades and whatnot, and if they want him, they usually give you that scholarship to make it equivalent to attending a local in-state public institution. That's what they do. For example, at the same time we applied ED, we also had applied to Washington State University, which is University of Washington in Seattle. And Malavika did get over there. And what they did was, along with the admission, they also gave a scholarship, and they actually pointed out that it was the same cost, with the scholarship was the same cost as attending an in-state public institution. So she should select University of Washington, given they had a list of things, reasons why she should go there. So they tried to do that. There are also certain private schools here in California which also do the same thing. USC is one of them. They have a scholarship program where if I have known at least 3 parents who have their kids in USC, wherein they try to provide a scholarship, making it equivalent to attending a public institution. So that's the thing. In our case, since Malavika got ED into Cornell, we did not base our decision on the cost of going into the institution. So it was kind of straightforward for us at that time. We did not think. But I'll say +1 to what Professor Beldona was saying. Good pedigree is important. And I'll tell you, now when I look at resumes, yes, somebody might have had 20 years of experience. After looking at their experience, my eyes always goes to where they went for their undergrad institution. It always looks at it. And all things being equal, I take a second look, like if that institution kind of like, wow, they went there, let me take another look. So it's a lifelong thing. No, it will stay with you for the rest of your life. So I would urge every parent to do the very best they can. If their kid can get to the very best institution, cost should be the second item. Getting into the very best institution should be the first item. This is what I would say.
To piggyback
Wow.
on what Ravi was saying, if I would say this, I think it was Vinod Koshla, I think, who said this best on CBS 60 Minutes once, that what does IIT do to Indian kids, right? It's the same thing here, is it gives the pre-assigned credibility that if you're applying for a job, a pedigree that gives you the pre-assigned, just like what Ravi was saying, when you apply, you're looking to see, hey, everything else being the same, where did you go to school? I think that trumps the where do you go? So to me, good points, and I think I would say that if you can get in, and cost should be second.
This is such a cool conversation. So thank you all very much, because having so many different perspectives gives our listeners, hey, there are a number of different ways you can look at this. But at the end of the day, it is important to be very clear on where you want to target and what your focus is and what you're trying to do in the end. So, excellent. So, thank you all very much. I know, you talked about grants, you talked about scholarships, you talked about FAFSA. I'm going to move to a couple of questions we have, because let's take a couple of questions before we go to the next segment. So, here is the first question. What are your thoughts about 10 pay plan, also known, I believe, aka like using insurance to fund education?
Uh,
Any?
what insurance talking about? What is the question? Like what insurance is it about?
Yeah, so let me read the question again. What are your thoughts about 10 pay plan, aka like using insurance to fund education?
I'm not sure about that insurance, but what I know there is this is what I know. I mean, one insurance person whom I know in New York, what he said was, let's say you foresee that your kids go to school or college, I mean to say college, after 5 years or 6 years, and you want to start putting the money in somewhere, right? Um, let's say you want to put in this 529, or you may want to put money in mutual fund or somewhere. There is advantage and disadvantage when you get to that grant thing, or you may put it in the savings account. There is a disadvantage there when there is a grant coming into your picture. However, if you put this premium, whatever every month you pay towards the like $500. I mean, I'm just giving a figure. I mean, there's nothing. There's no formula for that. Let's say you have put $500 per month in insurance. The money is growing there, and then that is not a savings account for you. It is not 529. It is not something. Which is but it is growing, the money is growing there, because the money which you're going to put into big companies, they're all insurance companies from 100 years, and then they're getting interest there, but it's not like you're paying any tax for that right now or anything. And when they calculate the total cost of the tuition, this grant is going to pitch in there, and then you have an advantage there. But there is nothing like insurance. In my experience, I don't know anything about that insurance which you put towards the uh, uh, you know education. I don't know about that. Maybe there is one.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think
I got a little bit of clarification on the question,
yeah.
and thank you, Rajnath. So you pay for 10 years to insurance and use the accumulated value of growth towards education. I believe that's what the 10 pay plan is.
Okay. Okay. So it is like an insurance premium you every month you put in there, and then you
Correct.
take out the money there. But the problem is there actually. I'm not sure
That's it.
if when you after 10 years, let's say you want to take money from the insurance there, for that I don't know if the IRS is going to come to picture. Uncle Sam is going to take money from you or not. I'm not sure about that part.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. Uh, let me go to the next question. Thank you. Thanks, Ajay, for that. What are your thoughts on promise funds? Srina, do you know anything about promise funds?
No, I've
I
not explored any of those. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I thought,
I
when
do.
you're talking about the insurance, I've seen some aspects of insurance to protect the tuition increases, is what I've seen some of the funds do it.
Okay.
You buy
Okay.
insurance to protect your increase. I mean, you might make some investment and it protects.
Like a gap insurance you're talking, I think.
Okay.
Sorry, I have not used any of these. I was actually looking up, Googling like what does 10 pay insurance mean, and I got the same thing. Um, the thing is that what Professor Beldona was saying about guaranteeing um, cost, whatever the appreciation is later on, that is there in certain institutions. But then you're once again kind of restricting your choice to that institution, and also like your kid should be able to get into that institution. Like there are it does come with some caveats, and as Ajay was saying, I don't know if there is any tax benefit to this 10 pay insurance, and I haven't heard about promise funds at all. Like, no, I don't know about that.
Got it. Got it. Uh, I see another question. Is there any disadvantage in not investing in college education funds?
Is there a disadvantage or the advantage? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Is there any disadvantage of investing in college education compared to investing in
The later 2 years is what you're talking about.
Correct.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Right.
I think yes. Yes. Advantages.
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, there are four categories which in my experience, as I said, if you are, if your son or daughter is planning to go to the in-state versus outside versus private, they all come into picture. When they all come into picture, as I said, there's no one straightforward formula to this. It's an advantage in few schools. It may not be that advantage in another school. It may, because the cost, the fund which you get from the school, right? They know that because you're going to declare that what you have, right, in your CSS profile, that is college scholarship and school and scholarship profile. When you declare all this, because these colleges, private colleges, ask for that. When you declare all this, then they know that you have this money, you're already bringing it in. Then your grant, right? Whatever they want to grant, they put in all that in their formula, whatever they have, and your grant, whatever you're going to get, may be reduced by 5% or 10%. We don't know. There is no formula for that. That's a
Okay.
disadvantage. But let's say you go to public school, right? In state or outside, whatever the money you have to pay, they can directly pay from there. You have like already insured money there in the bank account. It's like going from there to there. That's all.
Okay.
And then that's why we have 4 529 529. There's advantage there.
Got
I
it.
mean, that's how it is. I mean, is it fair? No.
Yeah. Got it. All right. So there is a question in reference to COVID, which I'm going to ask last because it's a kind of an open question. So that brings us to the end of part two. We talked about private colleges, public colleges, funding, and all of that. Now let me go to part three. And what was your final, selection criteria? And did you make the decision? Did Sachin, Bhumika, Malavika, did they make a decision? How did you finally decide? And what, how did it happen? Can you talk to us about, you've already talked about cost being one of the considerations, but when it finally came to that, how did you go about doing it?
I'll, let me take this first. Let
Okay.
me set the stage. I'm sure all of us will have different.
Yes.
To me, um, between the two schools, I mean, it boiled down of the main colleges, we whittled down to only two. And it was Cornell and UT Austin. And I did not want to make the call. In fact, my son wanted to make the call even without going to Cornell. I said, there is no way you're going to do that till we go and visit. So I took him on a flight. We went down and we stayed there. I'll tell you the simple reason is because I know what it means to go to a good college. I mean, I went to a good college, but not like, you know, Whartons of the Harvards of the world, but I did go to a decent one. But I know what it means. So I did not want tomorrow, 15 years down the line, my son to accuse me in front of a party somewhere. My father never sent me to, Cornell. I didn't want to hear that. And the fact that I'd already said I wanted it to come from him. And, we are all blessed with great kids. All of us are. I mean, everyone, Ravi, Ajay, you, everyone. And it was his call. It was his call. He made it the call and he put together a spreadsheet. In fact, I was very impressed with his spreadsheet analysis that he did. And he came back and said, Dad, it doesn't make any sense for me to go there, be far off, and I'm going to be very close. So for me, in our case, it was a very simple call that he was the one who made the call and he made it easy for us.
Right.
Yeah.
I can go next. Oh, sorry. Ajay,
Yeah.
you want to
Please.
go? Go ahead.
No, please go ahead, please, sir.
I think that um, Malavika had selected two schools outside of California if she wanted to go. Rice was one of them, and Cornell was the other one. And um, um, since we applied ED to Cornell, and when it came back, she did say, like, no, you will be spending so much on this. Do you really want me to go there? Kind of a thing. And I told her, no, like, what do you think? Like, and it took us 2 trips to the university, frankly, before she said yes. And um, so the decision was kind of made for us, given that we applied early decision. Um, and no, at that time, the financial part of it did not figure prominently at all. Like, there was a mention of, oh, you'll be spending so much in flights and whatnot, but other than that, it did not figure at all. And if at all anything, I should say I'm very happy with the choice that she made. Number one, it was her choice, and the very first question we asked when she came back home after the first semester was, "Are you happy? What do you think?" And she was kind of vague about it, but the way she was talking to her friends about her college and how it was, when compared to her choice of going to UCLA, where it's very difficult to get the courses you want as a unless you are a regent scholar or a chancellor scholar. It kind of told us like, no, no, we made the right choice.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ajay?
I can go ahead now. My experience is combination of Ravi sir and also Professor Beldona, whatever they said. In most of who are in Dallas Metroplex area, who are my friends, who is my friends here, and then how it happened in Bhumika's case. Um, she got into Johns Hopkins. I went with her to, and then we joined her, and then pay the initial deposit, whatever they asked for, and then she was all set. And then the orientation class, everything was done. But um, she got after that into the Columbia. So now she had to make the decision. As Professor Beldona said, it is up to the kid. And I later on, as he said, she should not say, "I want to go here and I want to go here." I did not say anything to her. I told her, "It's up to you. Whatever you want to do, you do it." So eventually, we also looked into the cost. Right, that was a major fact for us actually. How much difference is going to make Johns Hopkins versus Columbia, and he found that. Uh, it was not making much of a difference. But still, I told her, I mean, it's up to you. If in the end of the day, you are the person who is going to do all this. So, and then she looked into the syllabus, the curriculum, which they know better than I, because they have something like an open curriculum or something like that. She liked that, and then the lab opportunities, the New York. Um, the opportunities in New York, and the alumni network, which looked into, which was a great advantage for her. Even in the COVID times, that helped her. That is very important, right? I mean, the alumni network and how the opportunities you get for the internship. These are things which she looked into it, and she thought, I mean, that would be a good choice for her. And then she decided that I'll go to Columbia. Cost wise, it was not much difference for me actually. Uh, both are almost same, but since she had got the Hudson Scholar Award in scholarship in Johns Hopkins, it would have been a little less there.
Got it. Got it. All right. To summarize, let the kid make the decision because that is at the end of the day very, very important. So, but I have to tell you, you all have, prodigious, kids, Sachin, Malavika, Bhumika, they they are way out there, So kudos to all of you because you made everything, from their perspective possible, and it takes a lot of effort. So thank you all very much, for joining and sharing all of that today because I'm sure it's going to help a lot of folks that are listening. So before we close, I have a couple of questions, and here is the next question. There are two more questions, and then I'll ask you for your final thoughts before we wrap up. So, how much significance can be attached to all the letters you receive from educational institutions in the high school junior year about scholarships and asking kids to apply? So, how should you think about it?
Can I say this before we even get started? started on the question, I just want to say you were talking about Sachin and Bhumika and all, but I want to tell everyone who's listening to this, we always as parents underestimate our own kids. So all kids are doing very well. So kudos to the parenting that you all do. It's not just our kids. I mean, it's all our kids. So that's, I wanted to say that to everyone. Secondly, your question about, I'll tell you, to me, Shreya is getting ready to apply to colleges right now, or she has already applied. In both our cases, our kids don't want to tell me what colleges they're applying to. They take my credit card and then they just apply. Only when I get the bills, sometimes I figure out where they're applying. But at least my daughter has been, telling me a few things compared to my son. My son never told me where he was applying. Um, we get a lot of things. I mean, when you apply for SAT, when you sit for PSAT and all this stuff, they get the addresses and they keep sending out. Um, I would not attach too much value to those. I mean, personally, just because you got something in the mail is where obviously they're trying to figure out, they want to attract your kids to go there. But I think you need to have your strategy. You need to figure out your path, your vision, your dream schools where you want to go. Just because somebody sent it doesn't necessarily mean that they just mass mail out. In our own school, I can tell you, we buy the addresses, we buy the list, and we keep sending them out based on certain criteria that they would apply to. So that's what I would say. I mean, it's good that you're on their system, but that doesn't necessarily indicate anything.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, there is one final question, and I think this is a question probably on a lot of people's minds. So, with COVID, with new ways, with this virtual teaching and all of that, with COVID situation opening up new ways of remote learning, unconstrained by location, are we seeing the price of college tuition going down? What do you all see based on what is happening now?
I'll go first. Simple answer, no. Tuition is not going
May I
down.
go?
It will not go down. So I think the way colleges look at it is they still need to attract the very best professors, have the very best facility. And COVID, let's say it lasts for another year, 6 months to a year, whatnot. Afterwards, kids will be back in school. So I don't see uh, tuition costs coming down. If at all anything, the benefit has been in terms of the room rent, like now, which finally Cornell said, like, oh, you don't have to pay that. But for the first semester, it hit us when Malavika was in her middle of her second semester. They almost collected 90% of the fees, even for that, even though we stayed only for 50% of the time that semester. Different universities did in a different way, but Cornell said, like, yes, they did give us a discount, they refunded part of the money, but it was not exactly the part which we did not stay over there. Short answer, no, don't expect it to come down.
And if I could answer that question in a different way, being an administrator at a
Yes.
college and attending all these ASCSB conferences and all, the cost, I mean, you'll be surprised. A lot of people think the cost should come down. I mean, that's logical thinking. But universities are experiencing significant amount of expenses for online teaching because we have to invest so much more in technology. Our bandwidth were never there for the learning management systems to gear up for 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 students. It never existed. So now all of a sudden the cost of infrastructural costs that we need to bear has gone up significantly in our cost structure. So people don't realize, they think, well, you can just get on Zoom and do it. Might be that's one way to do it, but that's not the only way to do it. I mean, if you want to do it right, and if you still want to have interaction with the students on a small class sizes, the costs are significantly much higher. People don't realize, but we experience a lot of costs. So it's not coming down anytime soon.
Okay. Ajay?
Yeah, I agree. It's not going to go down. Actually, I read an article in CNBC. They said it's going to go up. Actually,
Okay,
it
there you go.
won't
Costs
go
are
down.
not going down, but it's always good to think it may. But thank you. All right. So of conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed, and thanks to all of the audience questions because it brought in a lot more richness into the conversation. So, panelists, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I want to say something about, I told you at the end I was
Okay.
going to say something about the COVID. Um, COVID has set in motion, it has acted as a catalyst. Education, if you think about this, I'm in the education business. If we were working in an industry, all of us would be fired 10 times by now as professors. Education is the only industry that has not changed in 100 years. You know, the same old stuff, same old 4-year degrees, same old stuff. Nothing has really changed. Professors have changed, books might have changed, but the concepts are still the same. But I think what COVID has done is it has exposed the weak links in the chain. And what is going to happen is a 1 month paycheck on this. But I can tell you this, that 15, 20 years from now, 4-year degrees will no longer be in existence. It probably will be a year, two at the most, and then kids will go off, go into the education, I mean, in the work environment, in the corporate world. And whenever they need to update their skill sets, they'll come back and dip into the educational system, pick up the skill sets and go back. That is going to be, may not happen in the next 10 years, but definitely 20 years down the line, mark my words, all these things are going to happen. So that retired, tenured professor life, none of that stuff is going to be play at any given point of time. A lot of things are going to change.
Wow, that's very cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that perspective. As an educator, you truly have a unique, view on where everything is going, and you have an inside look. So thank you for that.
I just want to add on.
Ajay, Ravi,
Yeah, what
Ravi.
Professor Beldona said. Now, those of you who have a toddler at home who heard that, don't think that you have to save only for 2 years of college. That will be actually the cost would be 4 years. 4 years. So please do plan. Like, don't think that you can save only half of what you need to save. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I mean, whatever Ravi sir and Professor Pranav said, I second that. And so, now just to close, this it is very, very the journey which you do from the application, applying for the colleges through this. It's a great. It was a great experience for me, and then I'm ready for my second daughter now. She's in seventh grade now. But now, as I said, as Ravi sir said, the by the time Bhumika finishes her fourth year, she will be going there. So for me, the cost will not help me because
So it's a
had
continuous cost.
yeah. But I would really appreciate you, Nagashri, and also Srinivas for giving me the opportunity to share my experience or whatever it is. I'm not a financial guy, and I don't understand some terms also even today. But whatever I had, experience which I had, I tried to share whatever I had.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you all for, actually joining for more than an hour and sharing all of this because you have gone through all of this and this means a lot. This means a lot. And so I'm truly, truly thankful for you to come on this forum and to share everything that you did because even if it helps one person who has been listening, I think it is well worth it. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming and sharing. So next month, Pranav and Prajit will be back on the hot seat, and I'll be happy to be not hosting. So We will have an open hour. We will have an open hour. It will be an interactive Q&A session with some of our favorite panelists, and you will have, we will have a group of panelists, and they will take your questions, and they will answer, them. And um, so join us next month. We'll be back. And once again, Ravi, Ajay, Srinath, thank you so very much. It was great to have you on this, show. And thanks for sharing all that information.
Thank you. And it's not a cost, it's investment. Remember that. It's not a
Yes,
cost.
Right.
it's an investment. Thank you. Yes.
Thank
All right. You all have a great evening. Bye.
you too. Bye.
Bye.